It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 257 for the start of December, the pre-Game Awards 2023 edition. And that's what we'll cover next week, but this is this week. I'm Steve Wright, one of your co-hosts. Joining me, as always, Ben Salter. Hello, Ben. Happy being married.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. I keep getting so many compliments for my amazing MC that was a professional everyone would love to hire, so... New career, Steve.
Well, sure. I'm really doing that a good job now. It was easy being the MC at your wedding because you guys had a good wedding.
Open bar. That's why.
Well, also that.
It's only been 2 weeks since we've been here, or have I messed up the notes? Because I feel like it's 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks.
It's been a while because
we had a brief gap. Yeah,
there's been stuff going on. See aforementioned wedding. 2, there's been a lot of games, but not. And 3, not a lot of news. So a weird combo, but that's changed now. So we should just get straight into it. Thanks to Grand Theft Auto 6, which there was the good old announcement of an announcement, which I always love, and you're a huge fan of. I know that. And then an accidental couple leaks. One maybe by the son of a Rockstar employee, and then I don't know what happened. Just everything happened.
Who knows?
And then Rockstar kind of like essentially taking its ball and going home. Like, fine, just have the trailer early. So that was a thing. Do you want to start there? Or do you want to where do we start?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. So GTA 6 officially, it was announced, but it was officially shown for the first time with trailer number 1. It leaked. Rockstar like a fine, here it is, kind of a tweet, and then they took it off Twitter, I think, or whatever that's called now, and they put it everywhere else. And then it broke all the records ever. So extremely successful move. It's had 90 million plus views in its first 24 hours on YouTube, which is apparently a record break for anything that's not music. So it's probably fair to say this is the most hyped game of the generation, and it's not going to be beaten, I don't think, at this point. We're not going to break down every single microsecond of the trailer like everyone else has been doing this week. I sympathize with those people because back in the GTA 5 days, and that's a long, long time ago, that game came out in 2013, different time on the internet. We definitely used to run the 20 things we learned from the GTA 5 trailer because there was 3 or 4 of them before that game came out. Yeah. And that must have been 2012, 2013. Across that period, and it was a lot of spotting the little things. I remember a lot of people thinking Tommy from Vice City was in it, but actually that turned out to be Michael, a new character that kind of looked the same. Heaps of that type of thing, and they've gone for a very similar trailer. So a lot of little hooks and little kind of flashes of things, which they know people are going to dissect. They know the YouTubers and the TikTokers. I'm not a TikTok guy, but maybe that's the best place to actually watch those because you just get it in 12 seconds instead of the 45-minute YouTube video.
Yeah,
this was a 90-second trailer, so you're not going to learn that much from it.
And what you're saying is games journalism is so broken at this point, and it was broken, starting to break 10 years ago, that you can just decide to write rampant speculation and call it a day.
It is. I do think it's the most positive I've seen for a game trailer in years. The general reception is positive everywhere. Every part of the internet that I've looked for this on, which is actually not many. It's just the ones that have been served to me. So it is whatever the algorithm thinks I want. Positive. And normally, any forums, if you look at the reaction on something like NeoGAF, you'd normally expect oh, that's awful. It looks terrible. So last gen. Haven't really seen that. People are generally pretty in favor of it. I think they showed just enough to kind of tease yep, we're going back to Vice City. That's the one that you guys wanted. That was the obvious one because it's the one we haven't done for a long time. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it looks like more GTA, which I get maybe a criticism for some people. But when it's 12 years between new installments, I think that's okay. No one else can do GTA. So many people have tried and they all fail. So I think more GTA at that point is fine.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to be critical either, but yeah, it looks I think it looks great. Especially and I never thought I'd say this sentence out loud, but when the woman is kind of dry humping the top of the car, it looks like real life. like, I don't know if I'm like super excited about that, or like I didn't spot any kind of like new dynamic, unique gameplay instances that are gonna like change my world. But like, there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing that like drew me in that much. But like, that being said, I feel the same about Grand Theft Auto 5, and I played it through its entirety and like didn't have a problem with it. I'm just not like super excited about it.
I think I would have been more excited if it was like and it's coming out in March 2024, which I kind of thought it was going to be. Obviously, this leaked years ago, right? Or like a year or something ago. There was some dodgy looking footage, and Rockstar just kind of pretended that didn't happen. So I think they flashed 2025. I'm hoping they're just being realistic, and it was going to be a case of this game was going to say 2024 and probably get delayed like every other game does now. Maybe they're just going, you know what? Let's just call it 2025 now. I don't think it's going to be holiday 25. I kind of feel like Rockstar like to get in their own little slot, and it's going to be like a March or a May or something 2025.
I think that's accurate. Like, the only reason that they announced this now is because of the anniversary of the studio, not because it was a good time and it wasn't part of the Game Awards or anything like that. It was just its thing. So I think a release in the same vein makes sense. And yeah, like, we haven't seen or heard too much about it apart from the leaks that Rockstar's clearly not that happy about. There's a lot of change going on in the background with one of the co-founders splitting off and making his own studio, and apparently like poaching a lot of talent from old Rockstar to make his studio. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, I think
need some new, yeah.
Well, yeah, like it's the old guard kind of doing the same old thing, and it's probably not a great business plan to just kind of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, innovate a little bit. You don't have to go to like completely revamp it to be like an Ubisoft open world or something. Like, Rockstar has its niche, but a little new blood probably wouldn't go amiss at this stage, I think.
And even so, with those changes, has been reported this is the biggest, most expensive game ever made. Like, it's got something along the lines of 3,000 to 4,000 staff working on it, which is insane.
Yeah.
Now that probably includes all the marketing people and all the business and finance people as well. But it's going to cost well over $1 billion US to make. So it's going to be. I mean, they've spent a long time on this. It's been in pre-production for like 10 years. It's going to be 12 years by the time it actually comes out.
Yeah.
We've only seen teasers. I think the big thing that was a little bit different from a normal reveal that's like a year and a half or 2 years out is it looked like it was actually in-game footage. And now we're no Digital Foundry, but just the vibe of it, it looks like actual in-game. It just had that little bit of jutteriness that suggested this was actual in-engine, not just cinematic. Yeah. And the reason I kind of noticed that is because there were the simulated on-phone shots or things like that of like the crocodile being pulled out of the pool and some like woman on the fake TikTok.
Yeah.
And that looked a lot cleaner and more pristine. And I kind of feel like, well, those look like cinematics to me. The rest of it looked like in-game footage, which does suggest they're pretty far along, and they've shown what the actual world will look like, not what it may be presented as, and then be totally different, which is good to see, even though it didn't look especially kind of mind-blowing from that point of view. I think an actual open world that you can spend time in, if you look at other open worlds, it does look like a pretty big step up from GTA 5.
Yeah.
It's a lot more alive.
Yep. No, I agree. And like the probably the thing that interested me the most was really those portions of the trailer, like with the TikTok, and like Grand Theft Auto, for good or bad, tries to kind of turn the lens back at society. And we haven't really seen Rockstar's take on this influencer culture, really. Like, it was starting to kind of pop up with not Trevor, Michael's son kind of thing, but like this is like fully now, like they're showing you reels and stories and live feeds from the TikTok or the Instagram or whatever. So I'm interested in how they're going to use that as part of their storytelling, which is something it's pretty new for Grand Theft Auto. Not new for us as society and this hellscape that we live in, but new for a Rockstar game. And like this company, this publisher, well, I guess they publish. They do. Why am I so hung up on this? Yeah, they're a publisher with a whole bunch of studios, but like they're a one game unit. Like it's all hands in, which is not like an Ubisoft or an EA or something where like the driving guys like do the driving bit of this game. Like no, like they're all in. Maybe there's a couple people prototyping Red Dead 3 or something, but like the majority of this company is making one game, and it's kind of insane.
For 10 years.
Yeah.
So I suppose there's how they kind of turn the lens on society now, which is so different to when we last had GTA. Like, as you say, that was kind of pre what we now know as influencer culture. We've had a full-on pandemic since then. We've had a lot change. We've had an insane real president. So how do they kind of up the ante for their game world of that? And it'll be interesting to see, because they've always done a good job of picking the right things to kind of turn that lens on and either seriously critique or more often kind of just poke fun at. And there'll be heaps of that. And then the actual story, which looks like, and they haven't confirmed this, but we've all just assumed that the protagonists are those two, that couple at the end, or kind of towards the end. So you had the man and the woman kind of look like they were just a crime duo, bank robbers, store robbers, which is a different dynamic. So we've normally had one character, then we had the 3 characters last game. Never had a woman as a protagonist in GTA. Never had like a couple romance either that kind of lasts the whole game. Normally it's been a bit of a joke or like just to throw in some sexist throwaway lines type of thing for a side mission or something. But to actually see that potentially build, especially in a criminal dynamic where it's the bank robber duo, I think is not that overplayed in media. Like you get a bit of it, You get the true story of the husband and wife who went around town in the 70s robbing banks, like that type of thing, but not a great deal. So I think they've, like they always do, they've found some protagonists, presumably, that they haven't really done before, which I think is what keeps the GTA games still feel fresh, even though we've had so many of them.
Yeah, and like it gave me some like Natural Born Killers or like even like Bonnie and Clyde vibes, which like that's a compliment. That's not a bad thing. And you're right, it's not something that we see all the time. Like I don't think it's going to go full blown love story, but I think it's going to be pretty real. Like the realism factor in these games is, well, with like the over the top kind of, what's the word I want? God, what is the word I want? Like it's not a pantomime, but it's like anyway, it's like, it's a weird, it's realism, but there's some over the top stuff that keeps it light and entertaining. But yeah, I hope that evolves. I'm not sure how they evolve that somehow. Like I don't want it to be just like GTA 5 with a new skin, but I don't think we're going to get that.
No, and we have no idea how it'll pan out. Do they start off as a couple? Is it something that happens throughout the story and you play these two characters independently for a while? Do you just play as one of them for the first 10 hours? It looked like the woman's she is in prison. We got to see that.
Yeah.
So potentially she's not playable for a period of time. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be different. They've showed just enough to kind of really do the hype well. Like I think they've left it on a good note. It was a 90-second trailer, so I mean we've already spoken about probably as much as we realistically can without delving into, did you see the size of that bridge versus that car, like all that type of stuff, which we don't need to do.
Her name's Lucia, and here's 17 other factoids.
There you go. But I think it's doing the hype right. Like I kind of feel like they've shown just enough. They've kind of been realistic about this game's not coming out for ages. Go wild speculating. We're not really telling you that much, but we've essentially shown you who the main characters are going to be that you're playing as, but we haven't spoiled anything. So there's still heaps of mystery, but we've seen enough to, I think if you're a GTA long-time fan, you'd be excited. If you're a casual fan, you'd probably be like, that looks cool, but I'm not really going to worry about it till it comes out.
Yeah.
If you've never played GTA before because you're like 16 and you just haven't played old games, like this might be your first one, which is insane to think. Probably not with how GTA 5 keeps selling insane.
Yeah. Well, and like there's at least a year between this and when it comes, more than a year between now and when it comes out. So like it'll be interesting to see what Rockstar does and how often they kind of drip feed us information. And obviously this isn't going to happen to Grand Theft Auto 6, but like today, as an example, Behavior Interactive and Supermassive teased their single-player Dead by Daylight game that they're going to talk about at the Game Awards tomorrow when we're recording this. And people forgot and were treating it like it was a new thing. Like, oh my god, they've just basically announced this game coming. And it's like, no, they announced that back in May. Like, we knew this was, like, just people forget. The cycle is so weird now. Like, I don't know what Rockstar plans to do.
But they've got the biggest, most hype game in the generation. So they can pretty much do whatever they want, and people will absolutely follow it to the very end.
Yeah. No one's going to go, Grand Theft Auto 6? What? I've never heard of this. Tell me more. They'll say tell me more, but for a different reason.
They might say, what is this about a new game that's just come out, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, because what is this? Like this is the last big game, the last AAA game for 2023. It's so weird. Its release has kind of mirrored the movies in that the first movie came out in 2009. Mm-hmm. We're told forever the sequel's just about to come out, and it eventually did in 2022. I can go on a tangent. I can remember being at Sledgehammer Games in like 2013 or 14 to see Advanced Warfare, and they were like, "Hey guys, we're going to spoil something for you, and we've got this big secret if you can keep it. We did the motion capture for this game in the same studio as Avatar 2, and they were filming right next door." Now there's no way, or that was like a failed version of it or something. Then the movie eventually comes out.
The sequel that no one asked for, by the way. Just sorry to interrupt, but
the sequel that no one asked for, which still went crazy at the box office, and then we're apparently getting 5 more or whatever sequels, and then they all get dated, and then they already all push back. Now they're scheduled up to 2029 or something, and that won't happen. Meanwhile, Ubisoft announced that they're making a spin-off game. They've got 13 years to make this game. And they missed the 2022 release of the movie, which seems insane. Like everyone's trying to make Avatar be a thing. It had its second wind, basically. Like it came back into pop culture. It's like, hey, we're going to do it again. That was the time for the game. No, they released it a year later. Mm-hmm. Very odd. Now you've actually played it. What are we getting here?
My God, you're getting. This is. I think we talk about this more often than we should, but like it's insane to go to like an OpenCritic or a Metacritic and basically see everyone having exactly the same opinion about something. And the opinion of the consensus of most critics is this is like, it's a solid, polished game. Like there's no buggy faults or anything, but like, holy hell, is it just boring and rote and just run of the mill average. And then you see scores ranging from like 9 to 4.5, and it's just like, what the hell? This is textbook average. It's not offensive. It's not exciting. It's not buggy. There's nothing that excels. There's no like amazing, unique things that like you have to try out. It's just like, like it's average. It's like the most 5 out of 10 game I have ever seen in my life, and that's the easiest. It's Far Cry with an Avatar skin, as you absolutely expected. It has, like you can guide to the next quest, or you can turn on the hint thing where you have to figure out where the quest is. You can collect 7,000,000 branches and craft arrows, or you can go and hunt and make a new pouch for your weapons. Like it's exactly, looking at it, it's exactly what you think it's going to be. And it's just with a story that is like Avatar style, like sort of there, but mostly flimsy in a way to show off tech. And like you have to be 1, invested in Avatar, and 2, invested in Far Cry and not burnt out by either to get any real sense of enjoyment out of it. And like it felt like a slog the entire time. I was finishing it or playing it because I needed to play it. And that's exactly, we treated The Way of Water like that. We started it. We said, nope, this is too long to watch in one night. We're going to watch over 2 nights. And we like finished it on the second night because like we'd already invested 2 hours into it, and we're like, well, we might as well just finish this. I couldn't tell you what happened in the story. I remember it was basically copying the story of the first movie. Yeah, like it's just like, this is it. I'm so proud of my first sentence. This like Avatar exists through the sheer force of James Cameron's will, and like we just have to pretend that we dig it, I guess. Like I don't understand how it's still
makes a lot of money.
Well, but why? Like no one's like, oh wow, that was amazing. We all just kind of do it because we think we have to.
Yeah, I think this might have been the last movie we saw in cinemas. Like it was movies are back, let's go to the cinema, what's out? Oh, Avatar, we saw it. Man, that was a long movie to watch in a cinema. I haven't gone back since. I watched Oppenheimer at home so that I could do the same thing and give it a pause and come back to it. 3 hours is too long for a movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, all right. Sounds like the game's exactly the same as the movies. It exists. It's unoffensive, but there are better ways to spend your time.
And it's absolutely gorgeous. Like you look at it and you're like, wow, this looks great. And like it's like absolutely making use of the SSD. And like so that's a good thing. But like in a like complete contrast, like the map is ginormous and looks essentially the same, and you're just like, why is this? It's Ubisoft. Why is this so big?
Yeah.
Why are there so many things that are exactly the same to do, and just like this repetitious cycle? If you love Avatar, and I like, there's, because you write your review and then you go and see, or I do anyway, go and see what others write at this, like when embargo drops. And like the 4.5 was like, yeah, I get that. And there was a couple 5s, then like 8s and 9s. And I was like, I can't fathom how you went so high saying what you did, but that's beside the point. Like it got picked up on the Avatar subreddit, and the people on the Avatar subreddit were like, wow, this looks like it's going to like expand Na'vi culture. And we get like, cool. If that's what you're into, you're going to love this. But I think that's such a small portion of people. And even looking at the traffic on the review, there's not that many reviews out there at launch, and normally there'd be a giant spike. Like, just no one cares. Like, my assumptions were correct. Avatar is not a thing that we really want to do if we don't have to.
And that goes back to my original point. If there was like a little spike of Avatar came back into pop culture, and they really missed that window.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is as big as it is. One, because in 2009 it was the big, we're doing 3D in cinema fad, and look how good the CGI is. And then there was probably some interest in, I remember doing that, so let's see what the follow-up is. And I think some of that was amongst like more casual sci-fi fans, so people who don't get super invested in the lore, so not your Star Wars, Star Trek nerds, not the level of people who are like really going to contest it and get fired up about something that doesn't make sense, or plot holes, or the fact that it's basically just the first movie again. Those people watched it, forgot about it. They'll probably go see the next one as well. Don't care about a game a year later, and I think that's the problem.
Yep, it's not a bad game. It's just it's so run of the mill. And if you've played Far Cry 4 was probably the best. 5 was all right. 6 was like, and in between that there was like how many Blood Dragons and Primal and the New Dawn one. Like, it's just. Stop. It's Assassin's Creed all over again. Like, just make a short little experience, and probably don't tie it to Blue Cat people, like if we're talking Far Cry. But like, there's just it's so Ubisoft, it hurts. Like not bad, but just like it's just a slog. It's just an inoffensive slog. It's just ugh. Anyway, yay. So
play it then.
I played it on PC because they gave us PC code like a week before, and like a day, not even a day, less than a day before embargo, they dropped some Xbox code, and I'm like, well, Matt kind of liked Avatar. I think he suggested we watch it, so like I downloaded it and I played it just to see how it fared on Series S, and like it made my PC fan chug, but it like frame rates weren't that bad. It's quieter on Xbox, and from the very limited testing I did, like pretty stable. Where was I going with that? The Ubisoft Connect cloud somehow feeds into Xbox, which is cool. So like my progression went back and forth, even though it's not like a Microsoft Store thing. But for playing as long as I did, I unlocked 2 achievements, and I'm like where I am, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I didn't finish the story. I will fully admit that. I'm like 60% of the way through. I don't care enough to see it through, even with the ability to get achievements. So it's so meh. It hurts. It's a 5 out of 10. Like there's never been a 5 out of 10 before.
A more 5 out of 10. Got it. Perfectly average game. If you're into that, advertise that now. I suspect it's going to be dirt cheap in about 3 months, so maybe wait till then.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Phil Spencer, your mate, your friend Phil.
Philly cheesesteak.
That's right. He spoke, basically. I actually didn't even see who he did this interview with, because everyone cut it up immediately and did their own versions of it. It was a classic Phil in his home office, and we're all looking at the shelf behind him interview. Keystone was back, by the way. The little Xbox streaming cloud, which they've cancelled, was on the shelf. Probably means nothing. He likes to basically troll people with things like that.
Oh, yeah.
His main point was he wants Xbox players to feel comfortable in their investment. I think there's been a lot of questions around the fact that Xbox has made some missteps this generation. They seem very Game Pass orientated, and perhaps the people who have bought hardware feel a little bit unloved, and maybe that they've made the wrong decision. So yeah, he wants to make people feel very comfortable in that. essentially reiterating that Xbox isn't about to pull out of the hardware market. Not that we thought they were. They need hardware to sell Game Pass.
Yeah.
Nothing which is an Xbox runs Game Pass well enough to not have an Xbox, really. So we said, as well as the services roadmap, which is Game Pass, they do have a hardware roadmap, which essentially means that they're already working on future hardware.
Well, yeah, we saw the Slim iteration that hasn't been properly announced yet.
The diskless Series X or whatever it is. That was old when that got leaked, and I kind of feel like maybe they've pivoted since then. The rumors have always been that there is going to be a PS5 Pro, but not an Xbox Series X Pro, whatever they call it. I'm not sure if that's entirely true. I feel like Xbox, the biggest mistake.
Sony said they were just going to go with not a Pro this year or this time as well, and just refine like the Slim that's coming out with like the
could
attachable disk drive.
It's all rumor. I think that would be probably the right way to go. The fact that we're 2023, the end of. We're 3 years into this gen, and we're only really now getting non-cross gen. Like, we haven't really seen what this gen can do.
Yeah.
And the Xbox One and the PS4, they kind of launched somewhat underpowered. Like, they needed that step up in the middle. Whereas these two consoles have been more PC parts, and they started pretty powerful. We just haven't really seen to the extent of what they can do. So, I don't think we need a Pro of either. We've discussed this before. It's all to do with the TV landscape as well. Yeah. But that's the rumors. I feel like maybe it's thinking more when the next gen is. Xbox's most successful move was undercutting the PS3 and launching the 360 earlier than Sony expected. So previous rumors have been 2028 for the next gen. Maybe they've moved that forward and they're like, let's sneak in 2027 or something. Who knows? But it's basically just reiterating there's a plan.
Yeah, the weirdest thing about this is like right before he spoke, and maybe that prompted him to speak, there was all those stories about like, oh, Microsoft's going to put Game Pass on PlayStation and Nintendo. It wants it everywhere. It's like, one, that's not new news. Of course, if they could, they would. But two, there's no way in hell Nintendo or Sony are going to let them do that. So like, why is this making the rounds yet again? But cool. Like Microsoft's putting it on Samsung TVs and stuff. That makes sense. They're putting Game Pass streaming on those things because they can. They're not going to get it on other competing platforms. But like they don't need to. It's on your TV. If you want it to be on your TV, you can get it on your phone. You can get it on PC. And if you have an old Xbox, you can wrangle that to play new games. Like that makes sense.
All the things. Yeah. Absolutely. He began the interview with that basically. Like, we're not coming to Switch 2. They would love to. And I think some of it is, there's also been reports that Xbox, both console sales have basically stopped in Europe. So it's essentially dead there, which is not good 3 years into the generation. That's very Dreamcast, and although that happened much earlier. So I don't think it's doing that badly. Like the sales, they don't report hardware numbers anymore, but it seems like it's selling okay. It's just not hitting the PS5 numbers. Which you wouldn't really expect.
That's like, honestly, that's down to games. And they know that, and they're trying to fix that. But God, it's been like one more year for so many years in a row. Who knows what's going to happen? It's down to games. It's even this year in there, they had more games this year, but Starfield probably didn't do as well as they expected. And at the same time, due to their own hardware's faults, they gave Sony a timed exclusive in Baldur's Gate 3, which is possibly going to win Game of the Year. Like their own RPG got eclipsed by that, which was not meant to be a console exclusive. And that's kind of like, I mean, what a big mess up that was. So things like that don't help. Generally speaking, I've liked what Phil's done. I think he's made some mistakes the last few years, or the team has broadly. But it's good to hear that like he kind of said, like, we hear you to some degree. Yeah. The other big, the kind of the tidbits was hinted that there's a roadmap for achievements as well. I think achievements haven't been changed for a long time. You're a massive achievement hunter, me less so, but still, we're both sitting here 300k plus, which is pointless. And I there was a time in the COVID years or just after where I was like, I'll play the little indie games that give you the 1,000 game score in 10 or 15 minutes. And now I just don't care anymore. I'm kind of like, I prefer just to get some achievements in the games I actually want to play. So I kind of wish they would balance that somehow better, even if they have to reset it and the dodgier games get weighted and you lose some of it. They devalued it somewhat. So they've cracked down on a bit of that, but it's still extremely rampant. But like, I think the thing that people really want is some sort of equivalent to a platinum trophy on PlayStation, where if you get like the 1,000 gamer score in Alan Wake 2 as an example, and they add DLC that has like play on super nightmare incredo difficulty, and you're like, nah, I don't want to do that. It looks like you didn't kind of like get that initial earned thing.
Yeah,
I think that's what people are most annoyed about. So I'm assuming that whatever is in the roadmap would kind of address that first and foremost.
Would be that. His last main point was he's very aware that Xbox is sitting on too many dormant franchises, essentially, which should be bigger and they should do more things with. He called out Banjo-Kazooie specifically, but there's heaps of others now that they own so many studios.
Yeah.
And pretty much he just said it's a matter of finding which ones we should revive and the right studios to actually work on them, which kind of reading between the lines is not necessarily the studios that either originally made those games if they're still part of the crew, or if they're not, finding someone who would actually fit that bill. So I would love to see someone else, whether it's a Toys for Bob or look, anyone really, not necessarily Rare, have a crack at a Banjo. Like that's the type of thing that could potentially happen now.
I'd like a Double Fine to do that, or like even Conquer. Like there's so many studios that have like their own kind of specialty, and so many properties now that. Well, I don't know, like, and even like, you can't do Activision Spider-Man games, but those were so good. But like, you have all these studios and all this pedigree and Microsoft money, so go buy up, like, go and find some sort of cool IP that hasn't been tapped before and make something neat. Like, yes, I know this was about existing stuff, but like, just do something. Like I don't know why Perfect Dark was selected out of all of this library of stuff, and it's not even like it's probably not going to resemble it's Perfect Dark by name and not
I think
history.
That's okay, like it's Perfect Dark. It's a nostalgic game for so many people that here's the new incarnation that makes sense, which is not a 64 game. Would have been good, but like it should have come out 3 years ago. Like what's going on with that? That shouldn't have been a really tricky, troubled development. It's an FPS.
Yeah, and we've seen nothing from it. It's been in existence for years. Should we put our money where our mouth is before we quit soon? Like what do you think we're going to see from Microsoft or anybody? What's your big like hot take announcement from the Game Awards? So we're recording this obviously like 12 hours before, so we'll find out if we're right or wrong very soon.
So the Game Awards is half marketing show, perhaps even more than that now. So there's heaps of announcements. I think Xbox always are pretty big. They announced the Series X there, they showed it there. I think Baldur's Gate 3 coming to Xbox, and it's here today, and it's on Game Pass, I think is the go.
Yep.
It may well win Game of the Year, in which case that would be somewhat of a redemption for the Xbox's stuff up. The fact that the game, which is just one Game of the Year, is now on Game Pass, and it's also launched on the platform.
Yeah.
Whether or not that actually happens because it would sell so well, but I kind of feel like Xbox just pony out whatever it costs to make that wrong right.
Yeah.
As much as they could. Otherwise, I'm not sure what else Xbox would have to show. Like, I think it will be existing stuff. Like, it's, hey, remember like Everwild or like that weird Rare game or Avowed or something? Like, all these games we've been shown for ages, but like, it's cool that they are working on new IPs, but they're not going anywhere either.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else.
We're going to see Hellblade 2 for sure. We're probably going to get a release date, I would imagine. Maybe the same. Well, we're going to see Fable, I think, but probably not get a release date for that. That seems like it's still ways away. I think Alan Wake 2 is going to win, and I think we're going to get confirmation of the new Game Plus and maybe the first DLC drop. How far along are you in that? I'm not going to spoil too much. You've seen the talk show. Have you seen the talk show set? That's the question.
Yeah, beyond that.
Well, it seems like from what the Mr. Door actors put on Instagram, it seems like they're recreating that set for the Game Awards.
That'd be something.
And the Poets of the Fall, the Old Gods of Asgard, are confirmed as a performer. So I think that's pretty 100% locked in. So I'm excited for that.
It would be quite tactical that anything which is nominated for Game of the Year is planning a big announcement, because any of them could win. I kind of feel like it is between Alan Wake and Baldur's Gate, just based on hype levels. Me personally, Zelda's my Game of the Year, but I kind of feel like those are the two which have got the most hype, and either is a worthwhile winner. Could be any of them though. I have no idea.
Bias too, like they're first and foremost in your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, announcements around any of those. Otherwise, it tends to be lesser stuff. Like often there's some smaller announcements. But yeah, the fact that there's no E3 anymore, there's no big game show, like as much as this was meant to be in awards, it's now kind of taken that slot that it's, if you want the eyeballs and you want to just announce something where there's already a captive audience, it's kind of the one. So there may be more.
And Keeley's said it's going to be a shorter show, clocking in at 3 hours. So,
so Christopher Judge isn't speaking this year, or like
he's been
3 hours just on him.
Confirmed as a award giver. So,
oh no,
yeah. So it's a 6 hour show. So just make sure you hydrate and schedule bathroom breaks. We'll have all the news on the site. We'll talk about it next week. Anything else you wanted to add before we get out of here?
No, I think let's leave it there. We've left it on a note of speculation that by the time people listen to this, they'll probably already know the outcomes of all of these. But it doesn't matter. We'll be back next week to chat all things Game Awards.